Hello. Hello all the way up there. Hi. This is my walk-on music. It's like Rocky. It's great. I wrote a book earlier this year called Less, and the book is really about three things. The first one, the less bit of this, is about how, as a global community, we've gone from needing very little stuff to wanting more of everything all the time. The second bit of this, the better bit, is how we've gone from striving always to make the very best quality in everything that we use, because literally our lives depended on it in the beginning, to knowingly and quite deliberately making a load of absolute garbage. And the local bit is how we've gone from being a sort of community of businesses and people where the value in all of our economic activity flowed into our local communities and was reasonably fairly distributed around those communities, to now where we live in a world where most of the benefit from the economic activity is squirreled away thousands of miles away on some yacht somewhere by some baldy guy. And none of it flows back to the people who are really doing anything. And I believe that is both wrong and dangerous and needs to be changed. And that is what the book is all about. So what I'm going to attempt to do in the 8 minutes I've got left is précis for you what took me 11 hours and 55 minutes to read on the audiobook version of my thing. So I'm going to have to get cracking. So I'm going to start right back at the very beginning. We've had trade and commerce for a very, very long time. I mean, when we first started, essentially, as a community, we all got together, and whoever was good at, looking after the cows did that bit, and somebody would do the cooking, and somebody would make the tools, and somebody would make the cooking pots. And we shared all of that activity, and everybody was valued the same, and everything was just sort of spread around in a really equal and fair way. And then, as we went forward, we started trading things. We've been trading stuff for a really, really long time. We know this because we found bits of Afghan flint in Western Europe that had obviously traveled something like 3,000 miles. So we've had trade for a long time, but trade in the beginning was, again, still pretty fair, because for most of our history, the people that made things were paid all of the money. So, if I wanted a tool or a piece of furniture, 100% of my money went to that person. There were no intermediaries, and it wasn't until the Middle Ages where we see a merchant class get involved in this entire process. I mean, there were obviously occasional examples where this wasn't the case, but artisan making, which is something we're coming back to now. Artisan making was pretty much the dominant form of all business. So I make something, you buy it from me, you give me all of the money, and I take it, and that's fair because I've done all the work. Middle Ages, we get we get merchants involved, and they start getting involved. Their nose is in the trough. They are providing, arguably an important service. They're providing the money. They're providing a bit of organization. But, now some of that money is going elsewhere. Fast forward very rapidly to the start of the first industrial revolution. And what's interesting is, in those early years, all of our consumption is based on need and not want. And that is a very important distinction. And again, it's something about a third of my book is about. But we lived very well within our means, and actually the predominant philosophical and religious teaching was all that greed was a bad thing, envy was a bad thing. We were all encouraged to live happily within our means. The rich man, harder for a rich man to pass through with the eye of the needle, and all of that good stuff. But then, at around about the time that Adam Smith is writing The Wealth of Nations, we wake up to the idea, or certainly the wealthy in society wake up to the idea, that if they can get people buying more stuff, then they can make more money. And all of a sudden, all of those moral objections get thrown in the bin, and we are actively told that being consumers is now a good thing to do. And we are actively encouraged to go away and do that. And that is a fundamental and enormous change to the way we live. Fast forward again, we've now got a situation where other people are involved. This artificial creation of want is a big part of where the money is now going. In the early 20th century, particularly in America, we get really clever about deliberately enticing people to buy more stuff that they don't need. And it's very, very deliberate and very well understood. People who work in that industry know that they are encouraging people to buy stuff they don't need for the specific reason of enriching a certain group of people who are already very wealthy. And that sort of creation of want becomes more and more and more sophisticated as time goes on. And I'm going to fast forward really, really rapidly. The other thing that's interesting is that you start to see a change in the number of intermediaries. The number of kind of noses in the trough go up as time goes along. And the amount of money that flows to the people that are actually doing the work diminishes. Fast forward to kind of now, and in my industry, which is an enormous global industry, $3 trillion industry, global actors all across the planet, huge vested interests. In my industry today, only about between 10 and 20%, maybe 25% of the money you spend goes to the people who actually do the work. And now we're in a position where most businesses spend huge amounts of money, far more money, encouraging you to buy stuff than they spend on making something, which is a fundamental shift, which is, in my opinion, completely wrong. We've now come to a stage, I think in the last 20 to 25 years in our industry, where there has been an extraordinary acceleration in the sophistication of the apparatus of making us want more stuff, from internet influencers to the gamification of shopping. It's all become a game to try and encourage you to buy more stuff. And at the same time, we've seen this catastrophic decline in the quality of the stuff that we're being sold. And both of those things we think are very wrong. Now, we're in a situation today where I think there are two camps. You have got, in my industry, the established players over here in Campay. That's the H&Ms and Zara's and the big businesses and the Sheins and the Temus and all these guys. Those guys have businesses that are built upon a continuation of an artificial creation of want. These businesses will not exist if they cannot make you buy more all the time. That is how they exist. And that is not sustainable in any way. It doesn't matter how well they manipulate the supply chain or what changes they make. If they're trying to sell you stuff that you don't need, that is not good for the planet. And the other thing is, none of the money that you're spending is really going to the people that are really doing what I would consider to be good work, which is making something good that's going to last a long time. So the other camp is all the new guys. And in fact, it includes probably a lot of people in this room. The only way we solve this is by creating new business models whose very heart is built on a model that doesn't require a continued growing of consumption. In fact, if we can create business models that have no consumption at all, lots of economic value, but no consumption, or consumption that is very small and the economic activity is well distributed, that is the way forward, I believe. I started a business called Community Clothing 8 years ago. I actually spoke at the very first B Corp festival in a field in South Wales where we ate bugs. Some people were there. I think I just started Community Clothing, and it was brand new. We just launched it with a crowdfunder. We're actually possibly thinking about another one of those. So the timing is interesting. But our whole business model was built from the ground up to do something very different. I started it because I wanted to sustain and create jobs here in the UK. I started it because I wanted to make good quality clothes affordable, and we do lots of things that are very different. When you spend money with us, 65% of the money you spend goes to the people who make it. That's all of the people down the chain, including the farmers, the spinners, the weavers, the dyers, the makers. That's fundamentally different. We take a tiny little slice. So the socks that I'm wearing, give you a concrete example, cost about £4 to make in a sock factory in the East Midlands that has been there for about 100 and so years. They charge us £4. We charge about £6. The taxman takes £1 and we take £1. That's our model. But we sell a lot of socks and we do a lot of good, and they're good socks and they last for ages. We don't encourage people to buy more stuff, ever. We never have new collections. There is no seasonality. Every product that we sell, this sweatshirt, we've got photographs on our website that are 7, 8 years old. The whole idea is build a business that is built on need and not want, and give the money, distribute the money in the right way. And happily, I can report, I'm now over time, happily I can report that the business is doing extraordinarily well, because who doesn't want good quality stuff at a good price that does a load of good? And the rest of the world has forgotten that selling a good product is enough. We have a little thing on our website. It's a graphic of a sock with a speech bubble, and it just says, "I'm a really good sock." And good stuff speaks for itself. We don't need to pay people millions of pounds to sell things if they're good. And there are lots of people in this room who I know are on that same page. But I just wanted to leave you with that thought. Less, better, local is our mantra. Enjoy your day. Thanks very much. I'm over time. Bye.